Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Formula One. I'm your host, Jamie. I'm here with my sister, Jac.
Hi, everybody.
And if you're watching us on YouTube, you'll see, once again, not our usual setup. We are currently in Miami.
We're together.
Yes.
It's just like a shocking thing to be together filming.
Yes, so we're spending, if you watched our most recent episode, we came down to Florida for the IndyCar race, the opening IndyCar race of the season, and then rented a car after the race was done and headed on over to Miami for a few days. So
we're doing a little bit better, as you can see.
Yeah, a bit more mentally functional.
Yeah,
than we were last time we spoke. So we are chilling in Miami for a couple days, hanging out, but we do have a podcast episode for you, luckily. So when we talked to you briefly over the weekend about IndyCar, but we really didn't get into Formula One. And Formula One had their second race of the season in Saudi Arabia, and some things went quite as expected. Some things did not. For quali, our top three was very, very classic. P1 Max, P2 Charles, and P3 Checo. Pretty typical quali order.
Yeah, not shocking at all.
No, yeah. And then again, not shocking at all. Our podium was Max, Checo, and then Charles in P3. Not surprising. Charles Leclerc, as we know, is a fantastic qualifier, but the Ferrari does not have the race pace that rocket of a Red Bull car has. In the rounding out the top five, we had Oscar in P4 and Fernando in P6.
Loved seeing Oscar up there.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Yeah. Other things, from the race, as far as like pace, I don't find any of this shocking. I was sort of wondering if McLaren would be better. We know Bahrain is not a great track for them.
Yeah.
But P4 is really solid. I was sort of going into this weekend wondering if they were going to be fighting for those top spots.
Yeah, I'm waiting for us to get to where we were at the end of last season. McLaren is P3 in the constructors right now. It is race number 2. I'm interested to see how they do in Australia. I think that will be a little bit more telling. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just holding out for for something to change. Yeah.
And we have not mentioned Carlos yet, and there's a very good reason for that. So he was obviously not in the top 3 in quali or for the race, and that is because he had appendicitis. So he actually did partake in FP1 and FP2, and when that happened, there was talk of Carlos isn't feeling well, and boy, was he not feeling well. He drove 2 practice sessions with appendicitis.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. But that means we did, in a season of no rookies, we did finally get a rookie.
We got and one of the best ones.
Yes, so Ollie Bierman took over and drove for Carlos. So he's currently in F2. He's racing with Prema in F2. He's a Ferrari driver, academy driver. And he had quite the solid weekend, especially he found out that he was driving the morning of quali. He had done his F2 quali, put it on pole, and then woke up and they said, "You're not racing in that race. So you go back and do another quali in a car you've never driven."
Yeah. I forget if he hasn't driven that. Oh God, I'm such a fan of his.
Yeah. So he did really solidly in quali. He did not make Q3 by just a hair, but finished the race P7 and is now 10th in the Drivers' Championship.
I am obsessed. The memes that also came out of it from Ollie's dad were incredible. There was a lot of shade thrown at Logan Sargent because Ollie did so well.
That's always going to happen. Anytime a rookie comes in, anytime anybody comes in and does well, the same thing happened with Liam Lawson.
Yeah.
Always going to be shade to Logan.
But I'm a big fan of Ollie. We were cheering him on while watching at IndyCar. I felt like his mom. I was like, I'm so proud of you.
Yeah. And it's just wild though, because he is now, 10th in the F1 Drivers' Championship, but last in F2. Didn't race.
Yeah. You did say that. You were like, you are sacrificing your spot in like F2 because you can't race, and it's usually pretty close. I think last year was pretty close for F2 as well.
Yeah, so it does. I think what I had said was like I'm sad for his championship.
Yeah.
It's so early in the season with them, so anything could happen. But I do. I mean, one, obviously he's going to take the F1 drive. Two, the goal of F2 is to get an F1 drive, and what's a great way to do that besides having a really solid F1 race? So I do think this makes things interesting, possibly for Haas as they enter silly season.
Yeah.
Kevin and Nico, I believe, are both only on 1-year contracts.
Yeah, they're both up.
I could see maybe them trying a new direction. They, for a while, were quote unquote done with rookies, but that was with their old team principal.
Yeah, was Haas done with rookies or was Gunther done with rookies? Yeah. I feel like it was more the latter.
So we'll have to see, kind of what direction they decide to take. But I think this does make things interesting. And as far as we know, Carlos will be racing in Australia.
There is no race this weekend.
No race this coming weekend. But as far as we know, Carlos will be racing in the next race. But if not, then Ollie will be racing again.
So. Is it bad that I want him to race again? Well, I'm asking you, Carlos Sainz fan. But yeah, and Ollie also got driver of the day.
He did, yeah.
We voted for him?
Yes. I checked if Carlos was on.
Yeah, I was about to say, Jamie did say, there's only 3 laps left, go vote for Carlos, I think is an exact quote.
Yes.
And I was like, he's not going to be on it. And she's like, check anyway.
I would have voted for him anyway. This has happened multiple times. Last time where he couldn't race, I still checked and wanted to vote for him. And this is a gripe that I actually have. F1.com, f1.com/vote.
I think Salesforce. You gotta call it Salesforce too.
I still want to vote for Carlos even if he's not racing. Leave him on there.
No,
that's annoying. Anyway, we did finally get our first DNFs of the season. So if you recall, first race of the season in Bahrain, there were no DNFs. All cars finished.
Yeah.
But before the first lap of this race was even done, we had our first DNF. Pierre had, I think it was a gearbox issue, and that was during the formation lap. They did end up having him. He did start the race, but retired the car very, very quickly after that. So the horrors continue for Alpine.
You noticed it because they cut to the back of the grid because that's where Alpine was. And you're like, oh, God, Pierre's gearbox.
Yeah. Yep.
So, was not on any of our predictions, right?
No.
That wasn't your prediction.
My prediction was K-Mag for first.
And mine was Logan.
Yeah.
So
we were wrong.
Neither one of our drivers have DNF'd yet.
High five.
I guess that's once again leading into
it's only been 2 races.
We have cursed people.
Yeah. Well, and also mine had appendicitis, so
yeah,
did not start the race, but it's fine. Shortly after, not too far into the race, if I'm remembering correctly, Lance hit the wall and crashed. So he was our second DNF of the season.
Yeah.
That was funny because he hit the wall pretty hard.
Yeah, he chipped the wall going into the turn and then slammed into the barriers.
So he got on the radio and told his race engineer, I'm in the wall. And those poor engineers are clearly trying to manage a lot. I could never, ever, ever do that job. But the race engineer just goes back and goes, can you bring it back? Can you continue? And he's like, no.
I'm in the wall.
And when you heard that while looking at the state of Lance's car, that was pretty funny.
I thought it was a delayed radio that they were showing. I honestly thought that was delayed because I was like, there's no way that they're asking this right now.
No, I think they were just, the engineer
he's just trying to
busy looking at other things.
Yeah.
Lots of chaos in the pit lane as well. Some unsafe releases. Checo almost crashed with Fernando.
Yeah.
Daniel Ricciardo had a 41-second pit stop. Not really sure what happened there.
I think it was because everyone pitted for the safety car.
Yeah.
And they just held I'm assuming that's where that one came from because I remember we were looking at it and we are like, why is it was like Ferrari is like Charles's one. And we're like, why is that one so long?
Charles' pit stop was like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
yeah,
but it was because they were
41
holding him.
seconds was crazy for Daniel. Also, Lando cursed himself. We didn't have to do anything, even though we are cursed. In an interview on Saturday, he said, "I'm just going to jump the start," and then our friend Lando did jump the start.
He did, and then there was no action taken,
which is shocking to me that he didn't get a penalty for that.
They were shelling out penalties for K-Mag. Like,
oh my gosh,
no,
we'll get to K-Mag in a
yeah,
second.
but yeah, and then did you see Lando was doing an interview after the race, and then the woman interviewing him was like, "What happened at the start?" And he goes, "I don't know what you're talking about."
I mean, also he's next to like Karen number 1 George Russell when he does it. So George immediately, like during the start, is on his radio already going, Lando jump start, Lando jump start. It's pretty obvious that he did, so it's shocking.
Yeah,
it's shocking
you could
that
tell.
He didn't.
It's crazy that there was no penalty for it.
Yeah.
I don't know who Zach is hanging out with, but please continue doing it. As a McLaren fan, please continue.
Invite Fred next time you're hanging out.
Yeah.
With whoever you're hanging out with Zach. And yeah, speaking of penalties, K-Mag, he went a bit.
He's our new Ocon.
Yeah.
He's leaning. It's leaning into that.
He had about 25 seconds of penalties.
Yeah, which one of them was a 10-second penalty for going off track and gaining a position, which I felt was harsh. Because I feel like it's not, and he like gave the position back and he still got that 10 seconds.
I think at a certain point they were just mad at him.
They probably are just done with the racer. Like, we're done.
And so he did assist Nico in allowing and got Haas a point.
Yes.
Nico he held up 10th. The entire field in 11th.
Putting the team on his back.
Yes, yeah. So the tweets about that were very funny too. Yeah. Especially considering he got 8% of driver of the day votes.
Yeah, Ollie won with an astounding, what was it, like 48% or something? Yeah, and then
K-Mag got 8%, and everyone was like, K-Mag just like commits several crimes and then
and becomes 8%. Driver of the day.
Yeah. We did have a non-max race leader for a period of time with Lando.
Because he didn't pit. That was the reason.
Yeah. So it was only for a few laps, but it was glorious. Maybe one day we'll have a non-max race winner.
Did you notice too, this is kind of off track, but did you notice that in certain cameras the McLaren looked red?
No, that might have just been we were watching it in the sun.
Maybe. But like, I was watching clips earlier and it looked like a different car.
Could have been the lights.
Yeah, it was weird.
And we did have our openings weekend for F1 Academy.
Yay.
This weekend. And Duran Pin won both races. She dominated. She crushed everybody. I think she got pole by like 8/10.
Yeah, it was a lot.
But which I find this to be extremely harsh, but she got a 20-second penalty for taking the checkered flag twice, meaning she did not realize that the race was over, was not informed that the race was over, whatever happened. However that happened, not sure. So she continued at race pace to finish the race.
Yeah.
And so they gave her a 20-second penalty for that. I
find that harsh.
And I do understand that it is dangerous, right? Because races are ending, so the track kind of opens up a little bit. There's maybe marshals coming onto the track to clean things up. There's people are slowing down. So I get that it's dangerous, but 20-second penalty for that.
She definitely won't do it again.
Yeah.
I find it harsh.
And I have to look into this because I haven't had a chance to quite yet, but I would assume, to me, that seems it's almost more of a team penalty, because shouldn't her team and her engineer and stuff have informed her? But I'm not quite sure that F1 Academy has radio.
No, they did last year.
Because then that, to me, seems like a team problem. I understand penalizing the driver had she been informed, but if she didn't know.
Yeah, then I don't get how she didn't know. They have radios. Now I'm thinking way too deeply into this.
Yeah, so I'm not really sure what happened there, but honestly, and I can take this bet now, you can quote me on this when I'm inevitably wrong, I think she will still win the championship.
I don't think this will hurt her in any way. Abby Pulling was then, who was in second, has won the race. Yes. She races for Alpine.
Yeah, so one person is enjoying their time
There
at
is
Alpine.
some success at Alpine.
She's carrying the success of Alpine.
Go,
currently.
Abby.
We are rooting for you, Abby. We are rooting for all of you, F1 Academy women. But yeah, she was promoted to race winner, which was really exciting. Obviously, a really strong weekend from her as well. Leah Block did really, really well.
Yeah.
So yeah, love F1 Academy, just very exciting. But overall, I mean, with lots of things happening, right? Like Carlos and the jump starts and things like that. But the race itself was largely straightforward. Max led almost all of it, except for when he pitted or whatever happened. And like,
most people pitted. McLaren and Lewis.
yeah.
Well, I think Oscar pitted. It was just Lando and Lewis, I think, were
Yeah.
one of the few that didn't. And I think Joe didn't pit either.
Yeah. So once again, lots more stuff happening off track. Felipe Massa is exploring legal action for the things that we've talked about this ad nauseum.
Yeah, bringing up a dirty air that's already been re-brought up, bringing it back.
Yeah. His 2008 championship, how he believes that because of Crashgate, he thinks that he should be given that championship. He thinks essentially that whole race, because of Crashgate, should be zeroed out. That's not, to my understanding, how it would even work, even if they did decide to do something about it. My understanding is that they would just delete Renault's results from that specific race, not the race entirely. But, Felipe, do you? Whatever.
You have time.
Go for it. I mean, there's so much other garbage happening.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the Max stuff?
So, there are rumors. Again, these are rumors. This is all, again, related to Christian Horner. So we've talked a little bit about Christian Horner. We talked about it when all of the news of the allegations came out. We gave you an update 2 weeks ago when the investigation had been closed, and then allegedly the alleged evidence had been leaked. The latest there is trouble allegedly in Red Bull. Apparently Helmut Marko has been warned not to speak to the media. And while he was, when that came out, he was already on Sky Germany, so he's not listening. And it appears as though, and Max has sort of hinted at, if not all but said, I am only at Red Bull if Helmut Marko is at Red Bull. So if the team chooses to suspend or let go Helmut Marko, apparently there is a clause in Max's contract that he could get out of driving for the team. Jos Verstappen has been pretty vocal about not being happy with how things went with the Christian Horner investigation.
Shocking, by the way.
Yeah. So now there is apparently more rumors coming out that maybe Christian Horner will be let go. We really don't know, though. I think the biggest thing here, one, obviously, is hopefully that the victim is being protected. I mean, apparently she's been suspended, if not let go from Red Bull. So like that needs to be figured out. But they have at every turn handled this so horribly that it is now becoming this like insanely big story where they could lose one of the best drivers of all time.
Mm-hmm.
They could lose some really influential people who have made this team what it is. And for whatever reason, they are just doubling and tripling down on this lack of transparency.
Yeah.
I think if you did this investigation and you found that he should be staying in his job, then you need to be transparent about what happened. And you need to be transparent about what you looked into, obviously protecting everybody involved as much as you can. But just like trying to be silent about it
is not helping.
Yeah. It sort of, in a way, does remind me of what's happening with the Kate Middleton stuff.
Yes.
Because they in the same way where with Kate Middleton, they were super vague about this surgery. And now everyone's like, what's going on? What's going on? And every time they try to give us pictures of her or give us more information, they're just like making it exponentially worse. What's going on with the Brits?
I don't know.
So we will keep you updated as this Christian Horner situation evolves. I think a lot of these things are getting misconstrued and probably blown out of proportion because we don't have the information, which is why we need clarity and we need people to speak up. Um, but I don't believe that this is the last time we'll be talking about it. We might be talking about it all season. I don't know how long this is going to drag on, but we will keep you updated. No race this weekend, sadly. No IndyCar race. Like, what are we going to do this weekend? But next race is
Australia
which was very entertaining last year.
with
So
Mark Webber.
yeah, with Mark Webber and Oscar.
I'm so sorry. I don't think we have any people from Australia who listen, but I'm so sorry for those accents.
I'm not.
We'll work on it some more
We
before
will,
our
yeah.
episode next week, where
Yeah,
we're gonna do the episode entirely in an Australian accent.
Yeah, so get excited for that. But we have a dinner reservation to get to.
So quick episode to just recap.
Yeah, just a quick recap, but we will be back on our normal schedule in our normal place next week. So we'll have more to talk through with you then. But until then, enjoy your week. Love you so much. Bye.
Bye, everybody.